Hello, everybody. Welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour live podcast. It's Thursday, and another live podcast is upon us. And I have an awesome guest for you guys and gals out there. Today, I would like to welcome Mr. Crazy Toms, and he has released his new album, Crazy on the Island, and single King of Pot. And we're going to be talking about all this good stuff. So, how you doing? And welcome to the podcast. Glad to have you on here finally. You froze up on me, man.
Oh, good to be here. Okay, can you hear me now?
I got you now. Got you now.
All right. Well, thank you, John. It's really good to be here. It's my pleasure.
So let's jump right into this, my friend. You grew up in Israel. Your musical journey started in classical piano, but you became inspired by American rock and roll. Let's talk about that a little bit. How did you come across American rock and roll, and how much did that fuel your fire to say, I want to do something like this?
Well, when I was about 9, I discovered Elvis, Little Richard, Chuck Berry, the Beatles, the Stones, all the classic 50s and 60s artists. And that's when I pretty much realized I wanted to be a rock and roll singer. And no change to then.
You're cutting out again, man. I'm sorry.
Hello?
Your audio. Yeah, your internet connection's
cutting
out.
I don't know. It's okay. Can you see me now?
I got you now.
Okay.
Your music is described as a bluesy rock and roll with a touch of insanity. What do you think when you hear people say that about your music?
I don't know. Well, my music has been influenced by the classic sound of like the 50s and 60s, early rock and roll and blues, and then I'm definitely a little bit of on a crazy side when it comes to performing. I'm a crazy showman, I guess. So that's probably where it comes.
Hey, your internet, you're cutting in and out real bad, man.
Hello?
Yeah, I got you now. You're cutting in and out for some reason. I don't know.
Should I try getting the link from like another source, like maybe my cell phone? Maybe that.
Yeah, you can try that. That'll work.
Okay, let me do this real quick.
Okay, it's fine. Folks, we have technical difficulties as always. Crazy Times is going to hop back in here in just a few seconds, folks, and then we'll cut back onto this interview and we'll ask these questions again and see get you guys and gals a great interview and show tonight. So we're working on this, folks. We're working on this. So hope you guys are having a good Friday. Or no, Thursday. I'm sorry, a good Thursday. Today is Friday Eve, as I should say. And you guys and gals can kick back, relax tomorrow after the work day, of course. We're just waiting on Crazy Toms to come back in here. He's having some technical difficulties with his internet, so I apologize, folks. These things happen. These things really happen. So,
is this better?
There we go.
Okay.
All right. So I'm just going to start all these questions over. We got everybody out here. So,
absolutely, yes.
So, all right, we're going to start back with the first question here. So you grew up in Israel. Your musical journey started in classical piano, of course, but you became inspired by American rock and roll. Let's talk about that. And what was your first take when you heard rock and roll like that? And how much did it influence you to say, I need to try this?
When I was 9, I discovered Elvis for the first time. And then shortly afterwards, I discovered the Beatles, the Stones, CCR, Little Richard, Chuck Berry, Jimi Hendrix, all the 50s and 60s legends. And right away, I knew I had to become a rock and roll singer. And I guess that stayed since then.
Your music is described as a bluesy rock and roll with a touch of insanity. What's that mean to you when you hear that? And do you take it as a compliment of people recognizing your music though like that?
Yeah, I think I do. It's always because clearly I'm influenced by the classic sound of old school rock and roll and blues, but then I also take it, you know, somewhere else too, using my own style. I had some insanity to it. I do some showmanship at my live shows, like playing behind my back, playing with my teeth, all that kind of crazy stuff. So maybe that's where it comes from. I don't know, but however people do describe my music, I mean, I appreciate it. It's their perspective.
You're doing some old Jimi Hendrix stuff there, playing behind the back.
Yeah.
With your teeth. How important is that for you to maybe do some flash stuff like that for the folks who are watching you live? How important is that for you?
Well, it was always kind of part of my style, but also, speaking of Jimi Hendrix, we had the same mentor, Guitar Shorty. I played for Guitar Shorty for his last 9 years until he recently passed, unfortunately. But he happened to be Jimi Hendrix's brother-in-law and his mentor before Jimi was famous. And actually, Shorty was the one who created the whole playing with your teeth behind your back. He was doing it long before Hendrix or anybody else. So I guess we both learned from him in a sense.
We're going to get into talking about Shorty here in just a little bit. I've got another question about Shorty for this album. So
absolutely.
How big of an influence was Little Richard for you? Because I mean, you said that Little Richard was a big impact on you. What was it about him that influenced you the most, possibly, if anything?
His voice. That's who I always try to sing like. His voice, his piano playing. At the time, I was taking classical piano lessons. And, after hearing Little Richard and his style, I kind of lost interest in that. I just wanted to pound the piano like him. And, of course, the songs. I mean, those songs were revolutionary, and it's just, they just moved me. It was just rocking stuff and done with a perfect kind of musicianship. So he was always a major inspiration on me, one of my heroes, even long before I got to meet him.
When I look back on music stuff, man, and I look at Little Richard, and I'm not saying this just because you just mentioned it, but it's just the truth. He was a pioneer of what he started. When he came along, he just busted the door wide open for.
Yes, he did.
I guess rock and roll, if you want to say it, rock and roll stuff, man. I mean, he really did it.
I absolutely agree.
How excited are you to have the second album, Crazy on the Island, out now for you?
Very excited. It's been getting quite a few streams so far, so it's just been released. So I'm really excited about sharing it with the world.
Having these tracks are out right now and seeing the feedback, what's your take on it? And what's your take on it? Then I'll go with another question on that. I'm sorry.
My take on what?
What's your take on seeing the feedback from these tracks that's been released? The feedback from the fans that are listening to it? What's your thoughts on those?
Well, it's been actually very positive feedback so far. People seem to really like it. The first single from the album that I released, King of Pot, which is a collaboration with some great people. It's been getting about, I think it got like 7,000 streams so far, and people seem to leave good responses, positive feedback. So I'm pretty happy.
Do you like seeing people say, I don't like this in the song, or there's too much this on the album? Do you take that and subtract that on your next album, or do you just kind of just keep that in the back of your mind and just do what you want?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, everything is subconsciously, at least, in the back of your mind. Um, so I'm sure doesn't mean every criticism that I ever gotten that I take it as the word of God necessarily. No, but there's got to be some kind of truth here and there. If a person feels this way, so of course I evaluate it, whether it's now or later, or you know depends to what degree, depends who says that. If the person is qualified, to and knows a whole lot about music and has experience producing or playing, well, then of course that's a whole nother story than somebody just saying something, you know.
Yeah. So what was it like when you first heard that? When you was working with somebody or cutting a song for an album? What was your first reaction when you heard it? Was you like crushed, like, oh no, what am I gonna do now? I got to overcome this.
Well, the way I do things as far as recording albums is during the recording process, I get a lot of advice, not just from people I collaborate with who help me mix and edit and produce the record, but also um, people I know, musicians that I really value their their musical opinion. So I always, ask for any kind of advice and play them what I got, and then they say what they feel and what should I change. And then sometimes I hear that they could be right, and sometimes it's a matter of a personal taste difference.
Yeah.
So it depends, really.
Do you feel that you should have more albums out at this point in your career other than just the two right now? Or no, are you right on par?
Yes and no. I mean, I've released albums with different bands
Right.
prior to those two. I've worked with many people and still do. Um, as far as my solo career, those are my only two, and of course, sometimes I do think about like how slowly things come out. But on the other hand, it's like I have friends, other artists who release albums like once a year, like they go one after another, bam, 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 one album after another. And, I feel like a lot of that stuff like is either not produced well enough, like it's been rushed with the production, or
Mm.
the songs are not necessarily as good as some of the others, or like really can illustrate their top potential as songwriters or musicians. So that's one thing I'm trying to avoid. I don't want my listeners to, I don't want to sell them mediocre stuff or stuff beyond what I consider to be my standards and what I would personally love myself. So it is really important to me when I release music to make sure it's always done right to the fullest degree. And sometimes I tell you, some of those songs I've worked for maybe 10 years on them
Oh wow.
and on, because I just, it wasn't there. I wasn't happy, but I knew I could be. So it took a long process, lots of, different takes, different, um, different mixes, different everything, until I was really satisfied where I could listen to it and not find anything wrong with it, like be completely, perfectly satisfied, or at least feeling that this is really the best I can do. And I can also say that, about what I have released. So in a sense, I guess I'm kind of happy. The less is more, with that kind of strategy.
So does it frustrate you though that you've had to sit on these songs for so long and knowing you've got these in your back pocket going, I've got to put something out soon. I got to get my own stuff out there.
Yes, and in the future, I might plan on doing things a little bit in a more faster pace. I'm hoping, but for now, for this album in particular, it was really important for me to get it to the to the most perfect degree that I can get it on. It pretty much represents not only my own music, but also some of the last living rock and roll and blues pioneers. It's some of their last work on it as well. So this album is no longer really about me as much as it's about the whole thing and all those guys who literally invented rock and roll music and the blues. And this is some of the last work. For instance, Guitar Shorty, that was among his last recorded work on my album. So there is no way I can rush this or make it come out and then listen to them, be like, I think I should have done this, I should have done that. I did not want a situation like that to happen.
Did the pandemic allow you to take more time to write and be more creative on this album, you think?
Yeah, yes, it did. Sure. In fact, I think partially because I took a break from touring, that I actually was able to put in more time working on the recording. Absolutely.
So did that break actually fuel your fire more to say, once you're started back into the groove of playing music again?
Yes, it did. Because as a full-time musician, I'm sure you know, we pretty much depend on touring. That's where the great majority of our money comes, and recording it's not what it used to be as far as making money from your recordings. So in other words, sometimes the touring and the stuff you're doing in your daily life, it kind of like take the first priority. But then when COVID hit, there was no shows for a while, so that was pretty much the perfect opportunity to go and really work on what I've been trying to release for so long.
Now, I know this is your second full length, but in the back of your mind, though, what were you thinking about doing an EP? Because you know it just as well as I do, man. Everybody's mindset's like 2 seconds. Their mind span is very, very short. Did that ever cross your mind to say, hey, let me just do an EP, then release another one later, possibly, or split these songs up?
Yeah, but I didn't want to necessarily do an EP because even an EP, if you think about it, it's half an album. So what I was doing, I was releasing singles between 2019, I think, up until 2022. So I was releasing kind of like one song at a time to show people I'm still here, that a full thing is coming. So once I had 10 good recordings, I decided to put out, called an album.
What led the track King of Pot to be the first song released off this album? What was it about that said that has to go out first for us?
Well, that song, I've actually been performing it live for many years. I've played it with my own band. I've played it when I do shows with the Chambers Brothers, and I've played it on every tour with the Red Elvises ever since I've been touring with the band. So the crowd reaction has always been really good for that song. I guess it's kind of catchy to them, and I felt like it could gain some instant popularity before they can go and check out some of the more deep tracks on my album.
Now you mentioned this album has the last recorded guitar work by blues legend and Jimi Hendrix's mentor, the late Guitar Shorty. How special is that to have this on your album?
Very, very, and like I said, that's why I had to take my time and make sure everything was mixed and produced to the best extent that I could have done it. Because Guitar Shorty, he was not only my hero and my biggest influence as a guitar player, and of course my boss for 9 years, my mentor, and one of my best friends, but he's also one of the pioneers of the blues. He is considered to be very important to the birth of blues rock because of his influence on Hendrix, on Buddy Guy, and many others. And he's a part of music history, part of American music history. And that was, really special that, some of the among the last things he's ever done was play lead guitar on my album. It was a big honor. And of course, he did a lot of the guitar work on my previous album, The Imaginary World of Crazy Tones, my first album as well. But on this one, it's like, for instance, his guitar solo on King of Pot, that was something incredible, and it should go down as, not only one of his last works, but one of his best playing.
Is there anything left from Shorty's guitar playing that you have recorded that you may implement in something down the road, maybe?
It's hard to say. We've done a lot of outtakes over the years of stuff we have been recording, not only for my albums, but also for other people. We were like a studio team in a sense. And we've, for instance, there's a new album that came out last year by Swamp Dogg, and myself and Shorty would do all of the guitars on it as well. And I'm sure there's other stuff that hasn't been released yet, especially in particular his upcoming final album that he's been working on during like his last couple of months. And it's been completed. It's in final stages of production. So I play guitar on it too. And I'm excited for that to come out this year, I hope.
Are these all brand new songs or songs that didn't make the previous album, or just songs that were left in the vault?
Good question. Most of them are completely new songs that were recently recorded, but there's also a surprise of 2 Jimi Hendrix covers that are actually really amazing.
Was there a track that you were working on that totally ended up sounding different than it was intended to? Was there one that just kept changing for you, possibly?
There's some kind of a sound problem in the mic. It's like distorting.
Oh, no, not again. Can you hear me now?
No, it's like distorting really bad.
That's what I figured. Okay, what about now?
No, it's impossible to really. It's like a really distorted sound.
Okay, let me try this.
Hello?
Yeah, give me 1 second. Let me try one thing.
No problem.
What about now?
A little better, but not good.
All right, let me see.
Hey, now it's good. Now it's good.
It's good now?
Yeah, right now it's good.
I don't know. I hate this computer. Okay, let's move on. Or something else happens. All right. Any track standing out? Okay. Was there a track that you were working on that totally ended up sounding different than it was intended to?
Yeah. A couple of them actually, but in particular, King of Pot, I started recording it maybe 10 years ago when I was still working on my first album. And it didn't make it on my first album. There was, too much. I felt like it wasn't finished. And then what happened was I was hanging out with the Chambers brothers, with Willie and Joe Chambers, known for classic 60s song, Time Has Come Today. And I was just asking for any advices, like what should, go in this empty space. And they came up with a brand new part to the song, which is the intro and the bridge. And it worked completely. So we went to the studio and they just put on the vocals and then the backup vocals. And it was just a completely different song, but a whole lot better than it used to be. So
any track standing out more to you than any right now on this album? I know these are your babies. I know you're very close to these. But do you have any that stick out for you personally?
I guess the title track, I kind of relate to it. Crazy on the Island. I don't know why, but
Any songs that did not make this album we can see on another album, or maybe a one-off single possibly down the road?
yeah. I've been already working on my next album and next couple of singles that I'll be finishing up hopefully this year. We'll see, but I'll do my best. So yeah, there's already a new work in the process, and like I said, I'm gonna try to up the pace a little bit now that I got this one out of the way, and yeah, I'm
So
looking forward.
are you looking to release that one this year too, or just hold off to 2024?
I'm gonna be realistic and say it'll be 2024. As much as I would like to possibly shoot for sooner, but we'll see. You never know.
What's the growth musically you've seen from yourself working on this album compared to the first one that you released?
How do I compare them?
What's the musical growth you've seen in yourself working on album to album? These two from you.
That's a good question. I think my songwriting has grown to some extent, and incorporating different musical styles that weren't necessarily on the first album. Like for instance, on the title track "Crazy on the Island," I incorporate all kinds of different stuff, including smooth jazz and world music and reggae, hip hop, with like blues and my usual kind of sound. But I don't really think in terms of comparison of songs, because like all of them are my babies, and they all serve their purpose. I guess it's a matter of personal taste of what which ones are better or not. But I do feel like there is definitely growth in my songwriting as well as in my musicianship, my playing, my singing. I continue to work on everything and try to do better. So personally, I think this album is better than my first one.
Folks, I want to thank you all out there for listening. That's out there in the chat room right now. If you have anything to say, please put it in the chat room, and we'll answer it as best as we can. Join in and have fun with us here this evening. Do you think that you've hit your stride musically, or are you still just scratching that surface?
I'm leaning towards the later, because I believe in continuing to grow as a musician. Because if I say, I've reached everything I could, my full potential, that's it. Well, where am I gonna go from there? You see, I know some musicians, including good musicians, who at some point of their lives just kind of settled, for what they know and can do, and their growth just stopped. Which I guess if it suits them, I'm happy for them, but that would not, be fine with me. I constantly wanna get better and better. And when I hear people like Hendrix or Jeff Beck, it's like I'm constantly getting the reminder, that I still got a lot of work to do.
I would be the same way. I just don't see how you could ever just put down the guitar and say, well, I think I've covered enough. I've done what I think I could. No, I just don't see. Look at Zach Wild. He's still coming up with stuff, man.
Exactly.
I mean, he's been doing this for many moons. So,
I've done two tours with Michael Schenker, and that's a guy who gets better and better with age and keeps on, doing stuff that like surprising me, as did Jeff Beck. Right until the end, he just developed and developed his style, and it just grew in many dimensions. So that's what I look up to, and I'm hoping that I can grow
with my style.
It's like you think they can't come up with something else, and lo and behold, man, it's like, where did this come from? What the hell?
Yeah.
What do you hope everyone takes away while listening to these new songs, or just your music in general? What do you hope they get from it?
I just want people to enjoy and have a good time with it, and if it elevates their spirit, put a smile on their faces, then I'm doing my job. And as far as anything deeper, well, whether or not they just find it, find the lyrics funny or humorous, or whether they catch any kind of socially conscious stuff from my lyrics, and it gives them a better perspective, or at least give them something of provoking kind of a message, well, then I'm happy too. But most importantly, I just want them to enjoy. And yeah.
I know that you have a lot of music still this day, and I know that you had a lot while you was growing up, but do you still have a go-to album or song that you find yourself going back to and listening to from time to time that you just cannot kick it out? You've got to listen to it eventually.
I mean, I have, I have so many favorites. So many favorites. I mean, I could mention almost the entire Beatles catalog,
Yeah.
But one song in particular that I always go back to it because it takes me to the basics and what I really like in my, natural primitive form is Johnny Be Good by Chuck Berry, because that kind of sound just is what kind of got me wanting to be what I am.
Has music met your expectations at this time?
Huh?
Has music met your expectations at this time?
With a music business in general, or especially nowadays, I don't really make expectations. I mean, it would be pretty hopeless, but what I can say is that I'm still doing music full time, which I have since I was 19. It's been almost 20 years now, and I'm still surviving just by making music and doing what I love. So I feel blessed. What to say,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's more than one can expect. So I feel happy, although I always try for more.
If you could be a member of a legendary band for one night and play one of their iconic shows, which band would it be and what show possibly?
I have to go with the Beatles at the Hollywood Bowl.
There you go. All right, man. How could folks stay in touch with you? Buy this new album, Crazy on the Island by Crazy Toms. How can they do that, sir?
Very good question. Well, you can get it in multiple places. The physical copies are still not made yet. There will be in a couple of months. But right now, you can find me on iTunes, on Amazon, as well as Spotify, of course. Or they can download it from my Reverb Nation website, which is reverbnation.com/crazytomes.
Before I let you go, good sir, would you care to do a promo for this amazing show?
I would love to.
Just say, this is Crazy Toms, and you're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Hello, everybody. This is Crazy Tomes, and y'all are listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Everybody stick around. We got some great stuff coming up, and you only hear these interviews right here. Please subscribe to the YouTube page. That'll help me out tremendously. Check out our Facebook page. Subscribe to that as well. Also, get out and buy this new album, Crazy on the Island. Check out his past work, Crazy Tomes, and I'm guaranteed that you will dig it. He's got some good stuff out there, and let me tell you something, folks. He can wail on a guitar, so you're very, very great on a guitar, my friend.
Thank you. You're too kind. Thank you so much.
Next Tuesday, we have Zach Honeycutt for Story Massacre and Raptured. He's going to be on the podcast. So be sure to get out and check out Crazy on the Island by Crazy Tomes. Please pick this up, support him. And man, you have complete support on here, folks. Honestly, thank you so much for being on here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a great pleasure.
Thank you, folks. If you still like me doing all this, please subscribe and let me know. I want this to be a home for everybody to come here and hang out and have fun and good stuff. So see you next Tuesday, folks.